Hello, this is Yogeshwar 7000 again, and I'm back with another interesting topic on Vedic astrology. And I would have mentioned to you in my previous videos that yes, we have to go and do our studies on the ancient scriptures and astrology through the great scriptures written by the great sages like Parashara in Germany, and Atri and Gautama, and other great sages, and some other recent sages as well, like Mantreshwara and Kalyan Varma, and recent scriptures like Lagu Parashari, Brihad Jataka, so on and so forth. But at the same time, if we go and study the Puranas, we can get some great insights about Vedic astrology, about planets. And today we'll be discussing about a little what has been mentioned in the Puranas about the planet Ketu. There is a Purana called Brahmand Purana. That's how it's pronounced in Sanskrit, Brahmand Purana. And it has given a prayer to Ketu to protect, for protection purposes. And I'm just going to read what that prayer actually means in English, because there's no point of me reciting that in Sanskrit and then translating it. So I'll just go directly in the translation to English. And that prayer, which is actually a kavacha means an armor in English. And like I said, it's from Brahmand Purana, a prayer to Ketu, so that we can understand as to how we can get some great insights from the Puranas as well. So this is how the prayer goes to Ketu, which is of course an armor, like I just mentioned, for protection purposes. And the prayer says that I always salute Ketu, who has a face filled with horror. So one insight here is that the face of the planet Ketu is horror. So it's a very fierce planet, as we already know. But this is what this Purana says, which we can understand from what is mentioned in this prayer to the planet Ketu, who is of multiple colors, has a crown. So we can associate the colors of Ketu as multiple colors, when it comes to Vedic astrology. Has a crown, who is shaped like a flag and is the lord of planets. So it is described here as a lord of planets here. Now, you would see in Vedic astrology as well, Ketu is actually a planet which starts. This is where this is the planet where the dashas start, the Vimshotri dasha starts, and in the 120 years of Vimshotri dasha, the first planet for the dasha system in the Vimshotri dasha is Ketu. So this can be related to this couplet which is described in this prayer, through this prayer in this Purana. Lot of planets, even in nakshatra system, the first nakshatra is Ashwini nakshatra, and the lord of that nakshatra is the planet Ketu. So that kind of you can relate it to what's been mentioned in this prayer in Brahmand Purana, who's shaped like a flag. So whenever there is a flag, and it's been described several times, you would have seen in Vedic texts as well, that yes, flag can be very, very, very clearly or very closely associated with the planet Ketu. So where you see a flag, you see the energy of Ketu there. So this has been described here in this Purana as well. It's very interesting that yes, how we can relate to this great information, important information which we can derive out of the Puranas as well. And this is described, Ketu is described, is shaped like a flag. Then the prayer goes on to say that let the multicolored protect my head. Let my hair be protected by one who produces smoke. So again, there is a connection of smoke with the planet Ketu. Of course, Rahu is also connected with smoke, but here it's describing that yes, Ketu is one who produces smoke. So there's a great connection between smoke and Ketu. So, you can relate it to people who smoke and places where there is smoke. Like if you go to sometimes nightclubs, there's a lot of smoke there associated with the planet Ketu. Let my eyes be protected by one with reddish brown eye. So people with reddish brown eye, there is a connection here. You can see the hint. Let my eyes be protected by one with a reddish brown eye. So people with reddish brown eye definitely have a connection with Ketu here. And let what I hear be protected by he who has red blood eyes. So people with Ketu, strong Ketu, can be associated with having red blood eyes as well, as per this great Purana, as per this great prayer in this great Purana called Skanda Purana. Another thing which is mentioned, which continues in this prayer, is let my smell be protected by him who shines like gold. So he's described Ketu as somebody who's shining like gold. Let my chin be protected by the son of Simhika. So Simhika is the mother of Ketu, as we know, and there is a mythological story behind it. And I may have discussed that in my earlier videos. It's not possible to discuss that story within this video, but he's been described as son of Simhika. Actually, it's sage Kashyap who married Simhika, and then this demon Swarabhanu was born, which of course became Rahu and Ketu. And like I said, that story is pretty long, not possible to discuss in this video. Then this prayer goes on to say, let my neck and feet be protected by Ketu, and let the Lord of plants protect my shoulder. So shoulder, again, neck, feet, these three things are associated, and when protection is needed, Ketu. So Ketu overall has I wouldn't say rulership, but a connection with the neck, feet, and the shoulders, because that's what this prayer in this Purana, Skanda Purana, is describing. Then this prayer goes on to say, let my arms be protected by the chief of Devas. So it's been described as the chief of Devas. Devas are actually anti the Asuras or the demons, but he's described here in this, Ketu has been described here in this prayer as the chief of Devas. So he has been given a position which is more powerful than the Devas itself. So I'm not going to comment on that, why it has been described here. Let the great planet protect my belly. So a belly portion is also can be associated to be connected with Ketu. Let my hip, the hip area, be protected by the one who sits on the throne. And let the great Asura, then he describes, this prayer describes Ketu as an Asura. The Asuras are gods and Asuras are the demons. So Asura is, of course, he's been described here as an Asura, which is correct. And they say, well, let my belly and my hip area be protected by him. So there's a connection there between the planet Ketu and the belly and the hip as well. Let my thighs be protected by the great head. Let my knees be protected by him with great anger. Let my feet be protected by the cruel one. And let all parts of my body be protected by the reddish brown god. So the color of Ketu here, of course, in the initial part, it's been described associated with multicolored, but quite specifically, it's been described, Ketu has been described here in this prayer as the color reddish brown, like we just discussed about the eye color reddish brown or blood colored eyes as well. So there's a great connection there. You can connect it. And of course there's a connection with feet, there's a connection with knees, and there is a connection with the head area. So these are connected with the planet Ketu. We have to remember that that Ketu has a connection. And then of course any kind of an affliction to these body parts, maybe, not always, but maybe related to the planet Ketu. And then they go on to say that this prayer destroys all diseases, all enemies, and makes one victorious. So Ketu has the capability to destroy diseases as well, and to, well, destroying enemies is not a very positive word, but yes, you can kind of say that yes, it can protect yourself from one's enemies. So this was a little description in the Skanda Purana about the planet Ketu, and we've got a lot of insights into the characteristics and the rulerships and the appearances related to the planet Ketu. And also I'll discuss with you about another prayer which is mentioned in the Skanda Purana. Skanda is one of the sons of Lord Shiva, and there's a Purana dedicated to it. And the Skanda Purana also describes the planet Ketu, which can give us great insights about the characteristics of the planet Ketu. And there is a stotra, or a prayer dedicated to Ketu, which says that Ketu, he who causes death. So death is, and the planet, the 8th house, of course, is the house of death. The Markasthanas, which are the 2nd and the 7th house, are also the death-inflicting houses. So Ketu's, they say the significations, one of the karakas of Ketu is death. So through this prayer, we can understand that Ketu, who causes death, he who makes time, smoky-headed one. Again, it's been described as smoky-headed. So smoke is related with Ketu. One who's multicolored. Again, we've discussed that in the Skanda Purana as well. Head of people, great head. So he is described as a leader. And one who torments the sun. So of course we know that the eclipses are caused by Rahu and Ketu has been described as an eclipse causing planet, especially to the sun, as it's described here. He was angry, so he's been described as anger. So people with the strong Ketu, you can look at the birth charts, and anger is a signification of Ketu. One who likes Shiva, so he is the deity associated with the planet Ketu. Well, not exactly deity. The deity associated with Ketu is Ganesha, but then who likes Shiva. So there's a connection here with Shiva and Ketu. One who's fierce. Of course, he is an asura. He's fierce. One who does cruel deeds. So you can see people who have a strong connection in the birth charts with Ketu could have some slight cruelty in them as well. One who is seen by pleasant smell. Ketu smells good. Unlike Rahu, it's described as not great smelling, but Ketu, yes, Ketu smells good. One who resembles smoke of husk, and one who's seen wearing sacred thread. Now, sacred thread is an association with the Brahmin caste. People from the West who are not familiar, the sacred thread is worn around the shoulder, and it goes around from the shoulder through the belly, and it's worn by Brahmins. So here Ketu is described as wearing sacred thread. So there's a connection here, although it's an asura, a demon, but there's a connection with this sacred thread. Very important. One who troubles star groups, meaning the constellations of stars. One who he troubles. One who belongs to the clan of Jaimini, and the clan of Jaimini is described as Jaimini, Maharishi Jaimini, who is a great sage who has given us a lot in terms of his Jaimini astrology. So Ketu is described as a great connection with the sage Jaimini. So astrologers who are connected with the Jaimini Sutras and who do Jaimini astrology, there could be a connection there with Ketu. So try to think on those lines. One who is the Lord of all planets. So he is also been described in this Purana as well as the Lord of all planets, just like the Skanda Purana. and one who is God Ganesha. So God Ganesha is the ruling god of Ketu. We all know that. And here it's described very clearly, specifically in the Skanda Purana through this prayer, this stotra, that yes, one who is God Ganesha means the rulership of this planet is Lord Ganesha. One who is the lord of obstacles. So Ketu does create obstacles, so he's a lord of obstacles. And one who destroys diseases due to poison. So whenever there's a disease caused by poison, Ketu has the capability to destroy the disease, depending on how and where it is placed in one's birth chart. So these are very, very important insights we're getting from the Puranas here, other than what we've been learning from the ancient scriptures of the sages, which are directly related to Vedic astrology. One who has forsaken everything. See, here's another thing, one indication. Forsaken everything means he's a renunciate, you know, and Ketu, as we know, is associated with spirituality. One who's wise, wisdom. Ketu is wisdom, although sometimes astrologers say, well, Ketu doesn't have a head. But then there's a great connection of Ketu with the planet Jupiter, and Jupiter is about wisdom. So here there's a connection which is very, very clearly mentioned here. One who's wise, and one who makes pilgrimage to sacred places happen. So Ketu is responsible for people going to and undertaking pilgrimages, sacred places. So you have to see what house in a birth chart is associated with pilgrimages and what is the connection of Ketu to that house. That's a great insight. And then it says that due to the grace of Ketu, all the troubles will come to an end. So Ketu has the capability to provide you happiness and also end to your troubles. And without doubt, his wealth, cereals, and animals will increase. So capability of Ketu here, in case there's a good placement of Ketu, there is a capability of Ketu to provide wealth. So wealth has a connection with Ketu. Cereals and animals means food and animals. And this has been described when there were no cars and no transportation in terms of, you know, there was transportation in terms of having animals. So this prayer was written at that time. So transportation, you know, providing good transportation in the recent times, you can associate it with Ketu. Cereals means good food, and they mentioned cereals because in the olden ages it was just about, you know, storage of cereals, basic cereals. So I discussed today about these two prayers, very important prayers, which are dedicated to the great planet Ketu, from the two great Puranas, the Brahmanda Purana and the Skanda Purana. And it has given us great insights of this planet Ketu, how it behaves, what it's capable of giving, what its characteristics are, what colors are associated with this planet. And hopefully you enjoyed this video. And in the meanwhile, I will recommend subscribe to my channel and check out my website. There is a link below, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.